Buying a new home can be so exciting, but in a competitive market, it can also be a really frustrating process. Here to share tips to help you find your dream home, we welcome real estate agent Lily Wyss. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
This is a tough time for buying and selling homes, but life goes on and sometimes you need to make a move, so you have great ideas for us to make it all possible.
Yeah, totally. I work a lot with first-time home buyers, so I've had to learn to be very strategic and scrappy with, finding those homes for people, so I'm happy to share those tips.
Yeah, starting with see the homes with bad photos.
This is a huge one. Yeah, especially when we get back into a competitive market, which is possible if interest rates do come down here soon. That don't be afraid to look at a house that just isn't properly photographed well. Sometimes you're surprised by houses that are photographed amazingly well, and then you come and they're not as great as you think.
I've definitely seen those.
Totally. The opposite can be the case where, no offense to the listing agent, but they didn't properly, photograph that house. You might be really pleasantly surprised by what you see. And then other buyers, most importantly, won't be going and seeing that home, and you can get a good deal.
Okay, that's a great point. And on the flip side, don't be afraid to buy the ugly house.
That one.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, sometimes if you see a property on the market that has good bones, is in good condition, but just may be outdated, don't be afraid to look at those properties. I'm always happy to chat with people about easy upgrades you can do, not talking about full kitchen renovations, but painting some cabinets, changing out the doorknobs. There's tons of stuff you can do on the easy end over time to make it a house that you can enjoy, and then also build a lot of equity and maybe buy your dream home down the road.
There you go. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a full remodel or a gut. The second that you move in, you can kind of time things out and budget them accordingly too.
Exactly.
Okay, get really clarity on what you're looking for and where, right?
Completely, yeah. I find, especially when you are buying with a partner, and then even when it comes to communicating with your realtor and real estate team, getting really clear on what it is that you want in a home, and honestly, even almost more important, what you don't want in a property. I had a client who, older couple, they need a house with a driveway, and she sent me one she was really excited about, didn't have a driveway. I was able to tell her, hey, you communicated you want that. Let's not waste your Saturday going and looking at that home. It can save you a lot of frustration in the end, being really clear on what you want.
Okay, and another tip is getting dialed into what's happening in the market at large, and then in the specific area that you're shopping into.
Huge. Right now, we are going to see, those greater real estate trends in the Portland metro, but every market is really acting differently. Every style and price point of home right now, if you are in the inner east side of Portland where we are, and you have a really cool property, that is actually still getting the multiple offers, and still you'll want to know to be competitive on those. Whereas other styles of homes, you'll see them sitting on the market, like you said, your friend of yours had.
I bumped into a friend in the grocery store last night, and they said they were able to put an offer on a new house, and it was accepted. And I was thinking, how did you do that? But good for you that you were able to, because there is a way, if you're looking to make a move, like they had a contingency offer.
Yeah,
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so with contingent offers, it's hard to do in a lot of cases where you're basically asking the seller, I want to write an offer on your house, but I need to still sell my property. It isn't the most advantageous thing for them to accept because they don't know when your house is going to sell or even if it is going to. But when we are in a market where houses are sitting for 40 days on market, like your friend had, they're a little bit more open and more flexible on making those, transitions with you and those decisions. So it can be a really helpful market when you have to do those buy-sell situations.
It feels like a really interesting and maybe sticky time with the interest rates being so high, but like you said, those properties in inner Northeast are still super popular.
Oh yeah, if you have the dialed in house, I always joke with people, for me, my biggest red flag in a house is gonna go to multiple offers is emerald green subway tile.
Oh.
If a house has, I guess, a seller's note, if you want to sell your house, put that in. But right now it's the subway tile and emerald green. A house is just gonna go wild. Everybody's gonna want it. I don't know.
That is so interesting. Okay, trend alert. So what should you do? A couple of other things to ask you about here if you find yourself in that situation in a bidding war.
Oh, right. So I always tell people, find your comfortable spot. So, I had someone ask me, they're like, well, if the market does get wild again, or I end up, asking about writing an offer on one of those competitive homes, do I have to waive home inspections?
Right.
You do not have to do anything you do not want to do. And so I tell people, if I spot a house might be in that situation, I might even ask you if you even want to bother seeing that property. And if you do end up writing an offer, we write terms that are comfortable for you, and we know when to walk away when it's just not a right fit.
That's a great point. You don't have to totally give up all of your agency in this process just because it might be a little bit competitive.
Exactly.
Are there other things unique about Portland overall or happening right now that you're seeing?
I think the Portland market's really interesting. I mean, one thing I always like to note to people, I had someone recently ask, like, oh, are people still buying homes in Portland? Are still people still moving to Portland? We are still the most affordable large city on the West Coast.
That's true.
So, you know, some Portlanders don't like this fact, but we do still have a lot of people coming from those larger, even more expensive markets like LA, the Bay Area, working with a lot of first-time home buyers. I do have sympathy for folks that can't buy in their hometown and need to move up here. And so we always have those folks coming, which if you are someone who is a homeowner, no, that does mean you'll have that good equity still.
For sure. And what about the Portland city proper versus all the suburbs? I mean, it just seems like I'm seeing listings all the time. I live on the west side and it seems like there's a lot of movement.
Oh yeah, well that was a big misconception during the pandemic era of people being like, oh, like I'll buy, I want to buy in, you know, inner Portland, but I'll buy in the suburbs if I have to. And I had to have these conversations of actually right now, the more surrounding cities are more motivating and more buyers are actually wanting that right now, especially in that trend of time where people maybe weren't wanting inner city. So yeah, it's something good for people to be aware of is in those surrounding areas, people are still really wanting to see houses, and in some areas it's even actually more higher buyer motivation in those.
It sounds like there is hope in this market. I mean, I'm getting optimism from you.
For sure. I think if you can afford to buy a house in this market, it's really worth seeing what your options are. I personally bought a house last year, which I thought was helpful, like to be like, I'm not just saying this as a sales pitch. I found this to be a really valuable time. One, it was the time that works for me, which I think is the most important time, you know, time factor for you to get in the market is when it's right for you. And yeah, I found, you know, negotiations I was able to do on that, things I was able to make happen. It worked, and now I've been building equity for a year, which, you know, a lot of experts will say that the best time to buy a house was yesterday.
Exactly. You got to get in there. Thank you so much. Such a great conversation. We'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.